All right, boys and girls, we are starting a new chapter here. So this is section 4.1. And let's review a couple of things before we get into chapter 4.1. Let's talk about graphing equations. So let's remember, what form is this in? Okay, hopefully you said slope-intercept form. And I can look at this and I can see two things just by looking. I know that this number right here is the y-intercept, and I know that this number right here is the slope. So the first point I would put on this graph is the y-intercept of +2. And then remember, slope is not a specific location. It tells me where to find the next point. So I would go up 3, right 4, up 3, right 4, put a dot, and draw the line. All right? So if I go over here to graph this, what's the y-intercept? 0. Where am I going to find the next point? It's negative, so I'm going down 2, right 3. There you go. So, again, refreshers, this is last chapter stuff, but it's a big part of what we're doing in this chapter. A couple other things I want to remind you of. It says y equals -1. What kind of line is that? That is a horizontal line. So if I'm graphing this, y equals -1, right there. Okay. Next thing to remind you of, what kind of line is this? Of course, that is a vertical line. So we would graph like that. So those are the big things to remember from last chapter. Why are we going over that? Well, the goal of this chapter is to go backwards. So we're going to be given a graph, and you're going to write the equation of the line. All right, so we're working backwards from last chapter. So if I tell you, let's skip the graph part for a while. Let's just tell you the slope equals -3, the y-intercept is 1/2. Okay, well, we know the form y equals mx plus b. We know this is the slope. We know this is the y-intercept. So I just take the information it gives me and write the equation. Gives you the slope, gives you the y-intercept. Put them in place. B, slope is 0, y-intercept is -2. Don't let that fool you, okay? It's just information. So again, y equals mx plus b, 0x plus -2. Well, 0 times x is 0. So this is y equals -2. And that, if you think about it, makes sense. This is a horizontal line. Horizontal lines have a slope of 0, okay? So when I just tell you some information, you can put that into the equation pretty easy. What if, like I said a minute ago, I give you a graph? Well, I still need those two pieces of information. I still need the slope, and I still need the y-intercept. By the way, it goes without saying, you should be writing this down. What is the slope? Well, count. Rise over run. Here, it hits at -3. Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's up 6. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Right 4. So the slope is rise over run. They're both positive because it's up and right, so it's rise over run. And of course, this simplifies to 3/2. What's the y-intercept? Well, it says right here, -3. It tells me. Tells me the y-intercept. Now just put that into the equation, and you're done. Okay? Let's do it again. Again, I need to find the slope. To find the slope, I'm counting. If you can't see the lines here, zoom in a little bit. Okay? So it's going down 1, 2, 3, down 3, and right 1, 2, 3, 4. So the slope is negative 3/4. What's the y-intercept? Well, it tells me right there, the y-intercept is 2. Take that information, put it in the graph. That's it. There you go. So if I give you, just straight tell you the information, put it into the equation. If I give you a graph, you have to count to find the slope, or you could do the formula. Speaking of formulas, so if I give you 2 points, how can you find this? Well, it's a slightly different version for this. So first off, I need 2 pieces of information. I can find the slope using the formula. What formula? Hopefully you remember. If not, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the formula to find the slope. Remember, that's sub 2. That's not an exponent. Okay, we've talked about this before. So I just take this and the numbers, put them into the equation. The second y minus the first one over the second x minus the first one. Watch your signs, because that's minus negative 3. Do the math. You get negative 6 over negative 3, which comes out to be positive 2. Oops. Positive 3, negative 2 for your slope. All right, watch your signs. Don't make the same mistake I did. So now, I take that equation I've been working with. I don't know the y-intercept, but I do know an x and a y, and I do know a slope. So y is 5, the slope is negative 2, and the x is negative 3. So I can take the information, plug it into the formula, and solve for b. Well, let's do the math here. Multiply those together, you get 6. Subtract 6 from both sides, you get negative 1. So the y-intercept is negative 1. So now, you need to finish the problem by writing the final answer without the numbers plugged in for x and y. So, let's do it again. Need to find the slope, use the formula to find the slope. Sorry. y2 minus y1. Negative 5 turns into plus, that's 0 over 8, so the slope is 0. So right now, that should be jogging something in your mind. The slope is 0. If you don't remember what that means, keep going the way we've been going. Take the point, plug it in, I got negative 5, I got a slope of 0, x is 8. So I take again, the x goes in place of x, the y goes in place of y, the slope, I figured it out. 0 times 8 is 0. Now if you're smart, you've caught on to a couple of things. First off, when I said I didn't tell you the y-intercept, I really did tell you the y-intercept, because anything with 0 for x is the y-intercept. So this step here was really kind of extra. If you caught on and you see the y-intercept as one of your 2 points, go ahead and write it. You know what it's going to be. If you don't catch on, then you plug in the numbers and you do the math. Second off, as soon as you see that, that should trigger something in your head. You know the slope is 0. What kind of lines have slopes of 0? We just talked about it. horizontal. What do horizontal line equations look like? Again, we just talked about this. That's why we reviewed this stuff in the beginning. And they're y equals. So I know the answer here, look, is y equals -5. All right? If you don't see those things, finish it out and do the steps. Do the slope, find the slope. You're going to have to do that anyway. And then plug it in for the y, the x, and the m, solve for b, and do the work. If you catch on, you can save yourself this work here. All right? Next. Now, function notation. So, remember, all function notation is doing is telling me the x I plugged in and the y. I can turn these into coordinates quite easily. 6, 34. Now, I just talked about being smart. What is the y-intercept for this function? 10. I know what it is because I have a 0 for x. Be smart when you can be smart. But I still need to find the slope. So I've got 34 minus 10 over 6 minus 0. That's 24 over 6. That's 4 for my slope. So then I put that into my equation. 4x plus 10. So function notation, don't let it scare you. It's just another way to tell you coordinates. All right. So again, if I give you the information, write the equation. I tell you the slope, I tell you the y-intercept, y equals 7x plus 2, piece of cake. If I give you a graph, you have to count to find the slope. Up 2, write 4, down 2, write 4, and write the slope, and then go to town. If I give you points, you have to find the slope using the formula, and then you have to figure out the y-intercept. Sometimes I will be sneaky and give it to you. Sometimes you'll have to plug the point in to find the y-intercept. Same thing for function notation. And then one last thing, of course, word problems. So, read the problem. Data for electricity generated by 248 million megawatt hours this year, 277 million this year. Write a linear model that represents the generated by the hydropower as since 07. So since 07 is a big key. So that means 07 is my 0. 08, 09, 10, 11, 12. Right? So it's 248. So I don't know what to start with, but let's go to 50, 255, 260, 265, 270, 275, 280 million. So before we talk any further, read the problem, figure out your scale. Since it said since 2007, I'm not starting at year 0, okay? We're starting at 2007 because that's what it tells me is my starting point. And that's important because it says it was 248 in 07. So that means my starting point is right here at 248. And then in 2012, it's up to 277. So this is 2012, 277. But really, I wouldn't do 2012. I could. But really what I'm interested in is how many years have gone past since then. So really I should think of this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So really I should think of this as 5 years have gone by. And this is year 0, 248. So you got this power going up, and it wants to know, write a linear model. Linear model means equation. So I need to find the slope of this. Once you get it on a graph, it's easy to find the slope. It's y minus y, 277 minus 248 over x minus x. And that's why it's important to switch those numbers up. You could have left it as 2012 and 2007. You'd still get the same denominator, okay? Do the math. 277 minus 248. I believe that comes out to be 27? No, 29. So that's 29 over 5 is my slope. So when it runs a linear model, I've got y equals 29 over 5x plus, what's my y-intercept? Well, on this scale, my first point was 248. So there's my linear model. Again, read the problem, come up with a scale, get a graph, because then visually it's easier for you to see. And then all I did is use my slope formula, put my slope formula and my y-intercept into the equation. Okay? Don't freak out if it's a big long word problem. Break it down, do the things you know you can do. All right. Good luck. Ask questions. See ya.